Welcome to the Rehumanization Station. I'm your collaborator, Christopher Jones, aka Dr. X, and this podcast is an extension to my Flippin' and Vibin' brand, where Vibers seek to transform narratives in society, education, and today's sport. Today is our Is Ball Life series, where we have a bubbly Viber named Evita Otigbah with us today. Evita, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. I'm glad you came. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm happy to be here.
Yes, she came here on her own free will and took your time out too. I really do appreciate it because, Evita is from Malta, Nigeria, living in the southwest of London for the past year, I'd say, and she also did her PhD in cell and molecular biology. Evita is currently working at a startup biotech company, Pentabine, as a senior scientist. Evita is also a powerlifter sponsored by SPD Malta, and powerlifting in the U57 kilos class and competing in the IPF, which is the International Powerlifting Federation.
Yep.
Lastly, Evita recently won the Western European Championships in her class, which is amazing. So not only is she, I don't know if she's a scholar, but also a professional athlete as well, we'd say. Okay, now it's a bit about Evita. But this is the part of the show where you and I just kind of have just vibe with each other and get the audience gets a chance to kind of have an idea of your background and your personal interests, right? So just to start off, what's your story? Tell us a bit about yourself. So, for example, your birthplace, family, and friends.
Yeah, so I grew up, I was born in Malta, and then my parents took me to Nigeria when I was 3 months old. And then I grew up there till I was 9. Then we moved to France, Paris for 3 years. And then I moved to Malta. I was there till, I guess, university. And then I moved to the UK for university, where I did my undergrad in King's College.
Okay, so what year did you move to the UK?
2013.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been here for like 11 years.
Mm-hmm. And how are you finding that compared to where you're
It's
from?
been fun. I do miss home now that I've been away for a really long time. But I'm really enjoying London. I think I've I have so many friends. I've made a life in London, so I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and you said you had family. Is your family here as well, or
No, so I have 3 siblings. My sister is in Sweden, my brother is in Birmingham, and my parents, they primarily stay in Nigeria, but they also spend months in Malta and France.
Okay.
Yeah, so my parents are retired.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you said you have siblings. So there's 3 of y'all. So where are you at in
I'm
line?
the middle.
Oh, I don't know what it is, but I think we've had multiple vibers at a middle child. I don't know what that means. But yeah, but we always say it because I'm middle child as well, technically, but I have a twin. But middle child, okay. But how was that growing up as far as being the middle? Y'all, how far are y'all apart when it comes to years?
Like 2 years.
Okay, so
yeah, so we're all pretty close. We were all pretty close growing up. Still really close. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now you're living in Southwest London. How are you finding that?
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's quiet.
Okay.
Yeah, more chill.
More chill.
Central.
Okay, when it comes to the work that you do, so you're a senior scientist.
Yeah.
What does a typical day look like for that?
It's pretty much lab based. Very research orientated. So I'm usually optimizing or writing protocols, running things through the pipeline. So it's that kind of work. But also it's an interesting, I'm in the middle of pivoting my career. So I'm actually doing a master's in bioinformatics part-time outside of work. And I've joined this company with the hopes of also training up. So it's quite a nice place to be in terms of my career. I'm kind of transitioning from a wet lab to I guess dry lab scientist.
And what's the difference between a work lab and a dry
wet
lab?
lab is pretty much you're in the lab doing experiments. It's very hands-on. I mean, bioinformatics is also very hands-on, but it's more computer based. It's computational biology.
Okay.
And I really enjoy wet lab stuff. So I'm trying to find a balance where will hopefully be able to do both of them.
Okay.
yeah, so that's kind of like what I'm working towards. But my day to day at the moment is, pretty much wet lab based, pretty much hands on, discovering new things, setting up pipelines.
And so for some of us that are maybe lost
Yeah.
in this type of profession or category, this work, what could be like a specific thing? Like you said, different types of discovery. Like what specifically?
Yeah, so essentially my company is a drug discovery lab. So what we're trying to do is look at drugs that we can put onto the market for like therapeutics. So I'm one of the people that are helping essentially carry out the pipeline, the experiments of like what a drug selection would be.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's essentially what I do. It's like they're very different experiments. My day to day is very different because I'm always doing very different things, but it's essentially just kind of helping set up that pipeline, going through that pipeline. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. And you did your PhD in cell and molecular biology. Yeah. So is that correlated in any way?
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of my work at the moment is based on, well, not based on, but a lot of the techniques I learned through my PhD are helping me in my everyday today like work, essentially. Yeah.
Okay. And if you had a way to summarize your PhD, how would you summarize
it as in like the topic or
the topic and the experience and the findings?
Yeah. So my PhD was based in nuclear envelope integrity. So the nuclear envelope is where your DNA is stored in the cell. It's essentially like protects your DNA. And it's a membrane organelle, so only selective things can go in and out, obviously, because you want to keep your DNA safe. So my PhD was based in looking at how the nuclear envelope maintains itself. I can't say the protein I was working on because I mean it's confidential information. Essentially, so I was looking at proteins that maintain the nuclear envelope. And I mean, the paper that we've released, I can talk about that, but we found one of these proteins that are very important for nuclear envelope repair. So sometimes when your cells are under high stress, your nuclear envelope might rupture because it's kind of like a balloon, essentially. So if it's under high pressure, it might rupture. And human biology is like very cool. But essentially, the cell also has mechanisms not only to maintain itself, but also to like fix itself. So the lab I was with was focused on looking at the mechanisms that the cell uses to fix itself, and one of the proteins they found helps essentially release tension at the nuclear envelope for, I guess, the repair mechanism to come in and to repair that like ruptured part of the nuclear envelope.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm getting
I'm explaining well.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I mean, you're good. Okay. And but that was the findings you'd say as far as And what's coming out of that now? Would you say your PhD?
Like what has come out as in
like how have you? Yeah, like how was that experience during your PhD? Like how was that?
It was really cool. So I started with like 3 different projects, and then one just took off, The main findings of my PhD, I mean, I had essentially my project was split into 2 parts, but the paper that we released, there was a PhD student that was originally working on it in a postdoc, and they moved on to other positions because their contracts ended. So since the techniques that I knew and the area I was working in was very similar to what they were doing, I came in to help with to finishing off the paper essentially, and finishing off the research so we could publish it. So it was very nice to get the opportunity to be in a situation where I was working on research that was going to be published, going through like the publication, I guess, journey. So it's taught me a lot about like not only like doing research, but also doing research and releasing it so it makes an impact, right? And then obviously I think there's a lot of PhD that has come out of that project. So research never finishes, right?
That's true.
So you just can't cover something so like the next person has a like path to go on to discover something else. So yeah,
That's
I
amazing.
think like there's another PhD student that's kind of continuing that project.
Okay,
Yeah.
amazing. And then, so I know I talk a lot about representation in
Mm-hmm.
in the research that I do. So, how's the representation for you as far as being? What is your ethnicity for the audience? How would you
I
describe your ethnicity?
guess mixed.
Race. Okay.
Yeah,
Mixed with
white. I guess West African.
white and West African. I say so.
Yeah.
I would sometimes use dual ancestry or
Yeah.
mixed race. Okay.
Yeah, mixed race.
And how was that navigating? Because you were in King's College, but how was
Mm-hmm.
that navigating your field specifically? Were you?
I mean, I always felt like, so I grew up in both cultures. I know both. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I grew up in both cultures. I know both cultures pretty well. In terms of, so I feel like I could fit in, just because I am multicultural, and I was able to experience different backgrounds.
Right.
Coming to university was a bit hard. I felt like I didn't fit in. And I know Kings had like I guess African Caribbean society, and I also felt like I didn't really fit into that fully, just because I was mixed race. And even going back to Nigeria and going back to Malta, sometimes because you're not fully from the country, or you don't look like you're from your home countries, people will, I guess, not consider you from there, if that makes sense, or like kind of consider you like a foreigner to a certain extent. So I did struggle with that, like at the beginning of my university experience, and I think it's only in the past few years I've kind of accepted that it's very fluid, that I can go in and out depending on like how I feel, and I can identify with like both places, and it's just more being comfortable in myself. In terms of like my university experience, I think like being mixed maybe helped me. There weren't many like Black researchers or like West African researchers in my department. There was very little, but the people that I saw made me feel like I belonged in this space, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. But how did that make you feel as far as prior to that, or just the social spaces, when you said like sometimes you feel like you don't belong in those spaces?
Yeah. I think because like I grew up in that environment, it was more just, I guess, you having to make space for yourself, and you having to like, it takes a lot to feel like you belong somewhere. So you like kind of convincing yourself a lot that you belong here, and I think that's kind of how I've gone through my experience, just thinking this, just like, okay, I belong in this space, and if people aren't going to make space for me, I'm going to try and make space for myself, and finding the people that will make space for you, because I know it can be very hard, but there will be people that will be willing to make space for you, will be willing to take you on, will be willing to mentor you. I feel like they're quite rare, but like you just need to try and find those people,
I agree. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. Okay. Thank you for that. And so what about activities that bring you peace, love, and happiness?
Yeah, training brings me peace.
Okay, training.
Yeah,
okay.
Training.
Why is that?
I think I like the idea of working on something. I really enjoy learning and working on things, and I enjoy consistency a lot. So training is somewhere where you can come in, you can just be consistent, and you will make progress, is how I feel. Like that's what training is to me. And that, I mean, even on days where I just want to show up to gym and I'm not putting in, I guess I'm putting in the 100% I have on the day, but it might not be the 100% on like my best day. I'm still kind of making some kind of progress. It adds up to something. Yeah, and it's just like, it's always been a happy place. I've always been very active. So knowing I can just like shut the rest of the world out and just be with myself is like, yeah, makes me like happy. But obviously sometimes training doesn't go well. So, other things that I enjoy doing is like going to the botanical garden and being amongst the like tropical plants. And I think it just reminds me of home, or like, catching up with friends, having a coffee, having like different conversations with friends, which allows me to like recharge, you know. Those kind of things bring me happiness. And like obviously seeing family, I'm very like family orientated as well.
Okay, that's good. And you mentioned about it being rare to find people who are gonna enhance your experience and support you. So could you think of any people who have been the most influential in your life?
So there's quite a few, not too many, but quite a few. I would say my dad is one of them. And I think like he has a lot of the principles that I live by today. He's helped nurture those principles, or he's instilled those principles in me. So one of the things that I struggled with was like I was struggling through university, and at the time I was dyslexic, but like I didn't know, which meant that like I didn't have the support that I needed, and I thought I was actually going to fail my second year of university. And I remember just being very anxious about failing. I didn't want to show up to my final exams. You know, it was like that fear of like failing. And I think it was the first time I experienced the fear of failing, if that makes sense. Okay. And I remember it got to the point where like I was very stressed about it. And I remember telling my dad, saying, I can't show up to this exam because if I show up, I'm going to fail. So I'm just not going to, like, I don't want to show up. And my dad was kind of like, I think he said to me, you need to show up. Even if you don't write anything on the paper, you should just show up. And that it's okay to fail. Everyone's going to fail at some point. Like, it's fine. It's not scary. You know, it's what you learn from failing. And that really took a lot of pressure off me to just like show up. So one of the things I always try and do is show up. Especially if the opportunities or what I'm doing is daunting. I always show up. Because when you show up, you realize that it's actually not as scary as you thought it would be. And actually, you know, I showed up and I came out with a first. So, you know, I was just in my head about everything. But like, you know, it's one of the things is like, he made space for me. He said, it's okay to fail. You know, it's okay to fail and try again. Or it's okay to fail and figure out like, you know, this is not for you. But like, he gave me the space to fail or to, I guess, learn and experience like the hardship, obviously, of the daunting fear of failing, but it's like normal for everyone. It's something that everyone goes through. Other people that have had an impact, I would say, so I did an extramural year during my undergrad in forensics with the DNA analysis at King's College. And the people that lead the department there, well, one of them's the manager and then the other one is a professor. And those two ladies have really helped nourish my career. They provided such a environment where scientists could grow, and I feel like that was a very rare experience that not many people get to experience. You know, get to experience like learning, making mistakes. As long as you like, you know, you learn from them, you're learning from mistakes, but you're not being punished for not being perfect. And also just like encouraging you to learn and step out of your comfort zone. And actually that's when I discovered I was dyslexic. So the manager
I was gonna ask more about when did you discover you were dyslexic?
So that was like so I was entering my final year. So my extramural year was after my second year of university, which is a year you do it's like a placement you do for your final year of university. So I literally discovered I was dyslexic in that, like right before my final year of university. And you know, it was the manager, her name's Leslie. One day she took me aside and she was like, I think you might be dyslexic, you know, have you ever been tested? And I said, no, I've never been tested. And she actually helped me through like the process of contacting the disability support at King's College, going to do the test. And like, you know, I had I guess negative feelings towards like being diagnosed as dyslexic because all my life, you know, so, but it also put things into perspective as to like why I struggled in second year, because the workload was so much that I didn't have like the support in place. So she was very supportive in that. And she's also been very supportive in my career. Like I'm still very good friends with them now. Like I go back to visit them once in a while. So that was also like one of the two influential people in, I guess, my career. And I think probably the last one is a postdoc that helped train me up during my PhD. His name is Leandro. And I think he had to not deal with a lot, but, you know, as a nervous PhD student, it was nice to have his, I guess, knowledge of everything will be okay. You know, you're on a learning path. And even when I wanted to switch career into like bioinformatics, he was very supportive. You know, he's very much on the vibe of you can reinvent yourself. So he encouraged me a lot to like pursue this career change that I'm kind of, well, not career change, I think career add-on that I'm kind of going for.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and he's always been so supportive, you know, always been so like kind with his words, and very calming when you're like in the midst of like, you know, PhD is not easy. You know, and obviously like there are other people, not in my career, but like in powerlifting, that have been influential. But, you know, on the career side, I would say it's like those 4 people.
Okay, we'll get to that. Okay, and just really quickly for our audience, when you talk about people with dyslexia, what, how did the person who was influential to you, how did they discover that? What made them believe that?
So,
what is your dyslexia?
Yeah, so my position was essentially lab-based, but also dealing with clients. And I think she realized when I was filling out like some forms, so when we were booking in clients, that I would make dyslexic mistakes in my writing. So that's how it kind of came out.
What type of mistakes would that be?
Just like switching letters, you know. They're very typical things that you would find. So it's a lot of like switching letters really, or switching words. And yeah, I think she just called it out to me.
And I don't know.
She was very kind about it as well. Because I feel like it's such a, you know, pointing out someone might have a disability can be such a hard subject to, like, you know, approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. But how are you navigating that now? How have you been able to?
So like, honestly, when I had the support in, third year was like the best year. It was so easy for me. I wish I had it from the beginning. Like I came back, I had all the support. And the support didn't come as much. It was just like some extra time when I was writing my exams, and also, you know, when we submitted essays, because a lot of our exams were like essay based. I wouldn't get penalized for common dyslexic mistakes, right? So it's like those kind of things, which just made things easier for me.
Okay. I don't know, but this might be a sign, but my mentor recently told me that I could be dyslexic as well. But that's something for a later date. We're on you today. But that's cool that you navigated that the way you have, and that's cool. I'm proud of you for that.
And you know, sorry, I just want to add, like, in my career, I'm very honest with like employees. I let them know that I am dyslexic, and that if, you know, the workload's really high, or I'm, you know, quite stressed, sometimes it might just take me a bit longer to do things, just because I'm, again, like, I guess I found out when I was maybe 24 or 23 that I was dyslexic. So I've lived all my life, you know, coping with it. So I think that's the thing that was hard to diagnose me. It was just that, like, I was very good at school, and I think I just learned coping mechanisms. But it meant that, like, I was like triple checking work. I was taking longer to check my work. If I did something, I would always check it over and over again to check for those mistakes, which meant I was just slow, right? A bit slower. So when you have a lot of stuff in like your second year of university, like, then you start falling behind, right? So now in my career, like, people are very understanding about like me being dyslexic, and it doesn't really affect me unless I do have a lot of things to do. I'm switching between different things, but it just means that I might be a bit slower, you know.
Okay.
But everyone's been pretty nice about it, so
okay,
you know, it's been an okay experience.
Okay, now this is going to be one of the last questions regarding this your background. I guess this is more towards sports, I guess, as we talked about before. So, but what are some of the most challenging moments in sport for you, and how have you navigated them?
Yeah, so something I learned about...
Oh, sorry to cut you off, but when did you start powerlifting?
Okay, I started powerlifting in 2017.
Okay.
So again, I've always been active. Previously I played rugby, and I kind of fell out of love with rugby, and I think it was more from like a pressure point of view. I felt like there was a lot of pressure on me from my team to play rugby, which made me not want to play rugby anymore or fall out of playing rugby. It wasn't like a place where I found fun anymore. It was like, people expect you to do this.
Do you like wake up really sore the next day of a rugby game? I don't know how that. So
do.
okay, I mean, because I've never played it.
Yeah, but I mean, I had so much fun, playing rugby. I played for the national team of Malta, and then when I came to do university, I joined the university team. But in my second year, I started falling out of love with it. And then I eventually just quit playing rugby, and I was just doing gym training, I guess. And then my brother is the one that showed me how to do the basic lifts, so squatting and deadlifting. And I kind of just worked on that by myself. It was fun gaining strength, like going into gym, doing the same thing, or something similar to the same thing over and over again, and just making progress. And then one of the trainers at the university gym saw me, and he said I was quite strong, and I should try out for the powerlifting team. And I was kind of against it. I didn't want to join a club. At that point, I was kind of like finding it hard to not make friends. I think I'm quite introverted, so it's kind of hard to be in new spaces with people I don't know. So I wasn't sure. I also didn't think I was that strong. But essentially, he said that I should just go, and worst case scenario, I will get form check out of it. I'll learn how to deadlift properly. I'll learn how to squat properly. Things that will just make me stronger. Right. So I showed up, and I met my coach, and he's still my coach now. So we've been, I guess, coaching, like coach and athlete since 2017. And that's where also I met like one of my really good friends. Her name is Nicole, and the both of them, I guess they just saw potential in me. So I joined, and I was like, I don't want to compete. I don't want to go to these competitions. And they were like, okay, right. Stay. They helped me with my form, helped me get stronger. And then there was like the university competition that was coming up. And they were essentially like, I mean, you're very strong. And, at that point I was like, no, I'm not. You guys are just saying that, right? But they were like, you should compete. You've worked hard for this. You've been in training, being consistent. You should try and compete. And I did compete, and I ended up winning the competition. And I was just like, oh wow, you were right. Okay. But I didn't believe in myself up until that point. I didn't think I was like special or anything, and I still don't think I was special. And I kind of just like stuck to it. I did British nationals, I did another box competition, and again it got to the point where I feel like, because people were telling me I was good at it, I was doing powerlifting. I really enjoyed the training. I really enjoy training. I think like the training part of powerlifting is the part I enjoyed the most, but I hated competing. I hated the pressure of doing well on platform, and I guess people having expectations of you, and the pressure of obviously like doing well, right? And I think that was also like an internal thing, me thinking that people expected like really high things of me. And eventually at some point, I think like 2 years later, 2019, I quit powerlifting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It kind of, every time I went into training, it felt like I wasn't there for me, and it became a place that wasn't happy. And I think it was just, I thought a lot of people had high expectations of me, which it could have been like, in my head, or, people thought I had high potential. So, I had the potential to be like quite good at it. So I ended up quitting, and I ended up doing Olympic weightlifting. And I've only gotten back into powerlifting in 2023. And even then it was coming back to it was like, okay, I'm going to see how I feel training. And then training brought me out a lot of happiness. And, I've obviously at that time I was competing as like an under 52 kilo athlete. So I've also moved up a weight class. So I guess I gained more strength. I was lifting heavier weights, and then I decided to try out for Team Malta to compete for Malta. And again, I had to reframe my mentality towards competitions, that I'm there for me. So like me coming back to powerlifting has been pretty much I'm doing this for me. I want it to be like, I want it to be fun. And
Okay.
I'm protecting that space. I spend a lot of time protecting that space. I'm protecting that space from expectations. So I know people are rooting for me, and you know, they tell me I have potential, and that's great. I love people rooting for me. I really appreciate it. But sometimes I think the idea of letting someone down can really like bring a negative like mindset into my training. So coming back into powerlifting, it's more been like, this is my happy place. I'm happy to be here. And that's like the mindset I have towards it, because again, like I quit rugby because of like I felt pressure to do it, right? And I quit powerlifting because I felt like pressure to like be great to do it. Where like coming back into it, this now is more for me. Okay. You know, like I'm happy to be here without like pressure.
And you said you were Olympic weightlifting, then went back to powerlifting. What is the difference between weightlifting and powerlifting?
So Olympic weightlifting is clean and jerk, snatch is what you see in the Olympics. And then powerlifting is squat, bench, deadlift.
Squat, bench, deadlift. Okay.
It's more static.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more of a static sport, powerlifting, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So basically it's more about expectations of others is kind of what kind of became a barrier maybe, and then
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess because I entered the sport not like I was happy to be training, but I think I like in terms of competing, it was more like, you know, people telling me that I could do really well at it. Not that like I enjoyed competitions, and I think I entered it with like not the right mindset.
Right.
Yeah. So now that I'm back in it, it's very much I'm doing this for me.
All right. Okay.
And I think like I've been having so much fun. Like I'm even really enjoying competitions now, which I used to find competitions the most daunting thing when I joined. So.
Well, that's good. That's good that you've been able to navigate that, right? Okay. Now, can I have a drink, have some water real quick. We'll get to the second part. But just check to make sure we're all good. Okay. I just wanted to check. So, I mean, let me have a bit of water too. My lips are. It's the wind, you know. I need to get some more coconut oil on my lips because, you know, it's lips getting chapped, you know. All right, well, we talked a bit about your background. I appreciate that, and just about family, a little bit about sport, your passion, who's influenced you, some challenging moments. But now this is the part of the show where we'll get into your work and your sport and how you flip the script to traditional narratives, right? So I've had a chance to view some of the work and content you're doing, as well as speak with you about it. Much of your work around sport is building an awareness to powerlifting in Malta and for women powerlifters, I'd say, as well. But your PhD is also, like I said earlier, about cell and molecular biology. So for our Viber audience and us too, let's attempt to flip the powerlifting script, shall we? Now, this is going to be fun because I did a little bit. I could have did a bit more, but I did some research around powerlifting and inequalities and stuff like that. But what are your perceptions, I say, of, because you've been in the powerlifting game for what now, 7 years, you say? You said 6 years?
I think more, right?
8 years?
Since 2017. I mean, if you count the years I was out, I guess since 2017.
No, we'll go with 8. About 8. Okay. Yeah. So what are your perceptions of the like traditional narratives or normative narratives in your sport or work?
Yeah, so I found powerlifting very inclusive. I found it a sport that you can come from any background, any race, and people are going to cheer you on. And that's what I really enjoyed about, you know, my first few competitions, and even now that going to competitions, is that people may not know who you are, right? And they'll still be cheering for you in the audience. Like other powerlifters will be cheering for you in the audience. And I think it's because they realize how hard it is to train, and then, you know, the bravery it takes to get onto platform. Like, it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And all powerlifting competitions I've gone to, even ones where, you know, I haven't had like friends show up, right, or family show up, there's always been someone rooting for you in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like powerlifting is a space where everyone belongs. It's very inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what background you are from, and that's the thing I like the most about it, you know.
Okay, that's good. So as far as the powerlifting, but what about, let's say, outside of that, when we talk about, because I know powerlifting traditionally has been more around masculinity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how does that play out with your day-to-day life, if that makes sense?
I mean, like, I've had challenges training at normal gyms, obviously, like public gyms, if it's not like a powerlifting gym, just because people, well, men, usually, some men, but like, I feel like they might be threatened by a woman that's lifting more weight than them. So I've had run-ins with, you know, or you're in the weight section, you're just warming up, and they think, you know, that you don't belong here. So I've had quite negative like run-ins, but because powerlifting has been very empowering, right? Like, in terms of you're getting strong, you're on a platform. It's powerlifting has given me a lot of self-confidence, that I can walk into a space that I'm not used to, and, you know, feel like I can belong or be comfortable, you know, and like stick up for myself. And that's helped in like my career. It's made me be comfortable in spaces that I may not necessarily be comfortable in, right? Like, in front of people I don't know. So like, it's given me a lot of empowerment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you said like negative run-ins, what do you mean by that? Like, what is the
Just
example?
like, you know, being told that if, like, I don't know, like unsolicited advice, you know, men trying to take equipment from me when I'm in like warming up. It's like these kind of things.
Okay.
Which, you know, it's fine. Like, you'll always find people that aren't nice.
It's
which
not
is
fine.
okay.
It's not okay.
No, it's yeah, but like, you know, you'll always find people that aren't nice, and it's all about like standing your ground, right? Like, it's not a nice experience, but the more, like, since I've been in the sport for quite a long time, I've been in those spaces, like, I'm very comfortable with, you know, people feel some kind of way, right?
Okay.
There's always going to be someone that's always feeling some kind of way about you, I feel, if you're doing, like, even if you're doing that something that makes you happy, that's not really affecting them in any way, they may feel threatened by you, right? And that's not on you to like take on. So I'm always trying to like vibe vibe by myself, you know, like, I would like to think I'm myself's best friend, so you know, it's like, it's all right, you know. And in my mind, I'm just like, you're having a bad day. And I'm the person that I guess you've chosen to part that onto, you know.
With men, with us, it's our own insecurities, right? Like you just mentioned about that's up to them, right, to be how we are. Okay, thank you for that. And so you mentioned about the space itself is inclusive. So I know, is there any other stories from other people that you've like encountered that may have had certain encounters that were they may have been problematic, or may have been in a way where maybe that's their business though.
Yeah. I don't want
to. My bad. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, but is there like any other narratives that you could think of that are out there for powerlifters and powerlifters in general? Yeah, just in general. Yeah.
I think like sometimes it's hard if you don't have access to like a powerlifting gym. But I think that's like with any athlete, even like Olympic lifting. If you're an athlete and you're focusing very seriously on the sport, right, being in a public gym or a public space means that you have to make space for yourself, and people may not like you doing something very serious, right, in such a space. So I think it teaches you just to be comfortable in yourself, unless you can go to a powerlifting gym. But I've been like, I switch between the two. So there's a powerlifting gym that I do go to. I have a lot of powerlifting friends. It's quite a social sport as well, because you have people spotting you while you lift. So like, if you're squatting really heavy, if you're going to feel the lift, you do have people that are spotting you, so you do have to make friends and or at least ask for a spot, and powerlifters are very willing to do that. So when you go to powerlifting gyms, you do know that like you will be quite supported because everyone's in like the same boat, whereas like if you're in a public gym, it's a bit harder to maybe like ask for help or ask for support. But yeah, I mean, the community from my experience has been great.
That's good.
Yeah.
And you said there's not that much access to powerlifting.
I mean, there's quite a few in London. It's just like it's not common, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's like a select few, right? And I feel like if you're not in London, then it might be harder around the UK to find like many powerlifting gyms. There might be like one per city or something, right?
Okay.
But it's okay to train at a public gym, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so so you mentioned a bit about, certain instances in your life, certain experiences that could have been like transformative, but could you share a particular moment that you would consider a turning point in your life, in your career, or your sport?
In my career, I mean, I feel like my career was just like when I was going to give up at university, and I was given the space to like feel okay with failing. I think that was like a very pivotal part. And I think if my dad hadn't said that, I don't know if I would have shown up to those final exams. And I think I would have quit. And I think that was very pivotal to like keep me going. And, even now when I approach very difficult things that I don't want to show up to and I don't want to do, or I think I'm not going to do my best in, I do think I'm quite a perfectionist. And I can get into my head. But I think in those times, I just remembered like what my dad told me. Yeah. Okay. So I think like that was probably one of the like big turning points of like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And everything else, I feel like, my PhD was hard. All PhDs are hard, I feel. It's like a struggle. But, coming out of my PhD and doing something very hard, I think it's taught me that I can just, as long as you're willing to learn and you're willing to start something, then, it might be very fun. So in the past 2 years, I feel like I've been really putting myself out there. One was taking on a part-time master's in bioinformatics on top of a full-time job. The other was, trying out for the Maltese team, seeing if I could get onto it, and then like ending up at Worlds, and then ending up at Western European Championships, which I won. And then getting the SBD Malta sponsorship. So it's like those things where if I didn't start it or like come back to powerlifting or just try, then I wouldn't be where I am today. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like set me up, I guess.
How do you feel now? Like, I mean, that you're a champion. It's
very surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I don't know if I'm just humble, but it feels very surreal. Again, like at that competition, I didn't even know I won, even when I came off platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
okay.
So I didn't know I won when I came off platform. I spent the whole competition kind of just vibing with the people that were handling me. It was also a bit of a stressful competition, but I wasn't even paying attention to the scoreboard. So when I came off like my final lift, I was kind of just like in a place of like, this was really hard. And kind of beating myself up about not being like, the day didn't really go as planned. So I was kind of just in my like a bit of a negative headspace. And then people were coming to congratulate me for winning, and it was just like, okay, wow. Right. And it was also like on a day where I didn't put, I guess, the best for performance that I was capable of. I mean, I know like I gave 100% of like what the 100% I had on that day is like, you can still do like great things, right? You can still succeed. So it feels very surreal, but it feels like I'm just having fun. It feels very fun. I'm very grateful. It's more like I'm very grateful for all of these things. I don't think I'm a great person, but I'm very grateful for all of the opportunities and like the successes that I've had, and it's like I'm very grateful for the people that have supported me and that keep on supporting me to allow me to like have the confidence, or like on a day where I'm not like feeling my best or feel like I can't do it, they're always there with their kind words to like help me, Right. So it's like making like not making sure, but like showing them that like I'm very grateful for like their kindness, and I'm very grateful to be in the sport and just having fun, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a great person to me. Yeah. And so when you you mentioned about so when you won, right, and you got the sponsor.
Yeah, I got the sponsorship after I won.
After that, and how did that feel for you?
That felt amazing. It felt like I was being recognized. I know I've talked about making space for myself in my field, or making space for myself in powerlifting. It's hard to make space, right? It's a lot nicer when people acknowledge you, and it felt like a acknowledgement that people were acknowledging that like, yeah, I'm meant to be in this space, you belong in this space, right? Because you can force yourself into a space, but it's always nice to have people backing you in that space, people that are in that space backing you in that space. And Team Malta have been so supportive. Like the Maltese powerlifting community, I've had such a good experience with them. They've been so welcoming for me. I feel like I belong to that community. And I also feel like because I've competed in like the British powerlifting community as well, like I feel like I have a lot of friends in the community, so I feel like when people are finally recognizing, like it feels like I belong in this space, and it feels like all the hard work that I've been doing, like it feels like I belong here, and people acknowledge that. It just feels good, right?
And you said the brand, you're one of two people who are sponsored right now by that brand, right?
SPD Malta, yeah.
And is SPD Malta? Could you explain a bit about them? You want to give them a shout out?
Yeah, so SPD is one of the major brands that sponsor IPF competitions, and also they sponsor a whole bunch of like strength competitions. They're one of the leading brands, and SPD Malta, I guess they also encourage and help athletes achieve their full potential. So it's quite a big sponsorship. It's quite a good sponsorship, in terms of getting the equipment you need to compete, and also having like that support. It's nice to be recognized by a well-known brand, like high quality brand as well. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you feel what you're doing now is going to impact future generations? Because I know you said you're the first from Team Malta to win a championship.
Win a medal. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there like anything happening as far as the next generation?
Well, I would hope. I think when you're in powerlifting, it's always nice to win. So I do know there are Maltese athletes that are aiming high, and I guess it's it shows them that you just need to be consistent and you can get there. And it's the same in my career. I don't think a lot of people, when they find out I have a PhD, they're like, oh my gosh, you must be so smart. I don't consider myself like smart. I just think that I've been a hard worker, and it just shows that like if you just don't give up and you keep on working hard, the path might not be straight. You may have to find your own path, like pivots, but if you keep on working at it and you don't give up, like you can get to where you want.
That's a certain way of being smart.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's different types of
I guess there's different types of smart, and I hope that, and I do try. My aim is when I'm in the position where I can give back to either like scientists that are very early in their career, or powerlifters that are just starting out, is just like be honest about my experience, and show them that like they can get there. I don't think I'm special in any way, shape, or form, and I think like anyone can be in the position that I'm in. I don't think like it's taken magic to get to where I am. I'm not this like, I don't know, put together person. There have been times where I failed, like I quit powerlifting, I've come back to it. It's just like finding your own path, being happy with yourself and happy with what you're doing, and if it's gonna be something hard, like be willing to put in the work and don't give up, right? And like start something. If you want to do something, just start it. You never know what you're like the journey you're gonna go on unless you're gonna start it, right? Even if it's failing, like you'll learn something from failing, but you never know if it's for you until you start it. So I think like that's what I want to instill with like people that come after me. Yeah, and I know what it's like to start a journey, be it in powerlifting or be it in science and research. I know the struggles and like the fears that people might face, and I hope to be a mentor that I needed or that I had when I was like starting out, because starting out can be very daunting, and I think like people need to support people that are starting out. So I hope that if I ever get a chance that I can, you know, be that kind voice to motivate people.
That's good.
Yeah.
And as far as like representation, so are you, would you consider yourself, like say you're mixed race, dual-ancestry, would you consider yourself one of many, one of few, or the only?
I don't think I'm the only, right? There's a lot of mixed race people around. I think. Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Like, is there? So the question is more about representation, about people from your background.
Yeah.
Is it high? Is it medium? Is it low?
I feel like maybe Maltese Nigerians are quite rare. But I've met a lot of mixed race Nigerians, and I think, you know, you can move in and out of spaces. Like you can belong to two spaces. I think it's just navigating that. Like sometimes you may feel like you don't belong because you're not fully one race or the other, but I think, you know, you can use it to your advantage. And again, it's more being secure in yourself and more feeling like you belong in spaces that people may say that you don't belong in, you know. But I think that takes a lot of work. But I think like it's helped me because I can get on with, you know, I understand like the Nigerian culture. I have like a lot of Nigerian friends. I can get on with those people, and, you know, even Maltese friends or friends that are mixed race. It's like I can, you know, navigate those spaces. So it's actually been like a positive for me, I feel. Now that I'm an adult and I feel more secure in myself, right? But growing up, it was maybe a bit harder. But I do think, again, it's like, regardless of race, you need to find people that will vibe with you. Like, you know, you need to find your tribe. And a lot of my friends are either Nigerian or not mixed. And they still accept me for who I am. Accept me for who I am. And, you know, those are the kind of people you need to find. So find those people, stick with those people, and you'll be good, you know. And like be that friend that you needed, right?
A lot of what you're saying is just more about, sounds like we talk about loving thyself.
Yeah. Love yourself and like give that love to people around you. Like share your light, you know. Because
if you love yourself, it's easier to kind of have the understanding of who you want to be around and who, you know.
Yeah.
So okay, gotcha. Perfect. Okay. Thank you for that. Now we're at the last part of the show. You're doing great. I told you we're doing great. Have some water.
I hope so.
Now, this is the rehumanization part, right? So if you could reflect on your journey thus far, what do you know now that you wish you knew before?
Yeah. I think what do I know now that I wish I knew before? Probably take it easy. I know now to take it easy and enjoy the journey. You know, I feel like when I was in it, I was not enjoying the struggle and I saw it as a struggle. But now that I'm more mature, and I've obviously been through the struggle, I've made it through the struggle. So I feel like it's easier to say, it's just like enjoy the process. I wish I enjoyed the process a lot more. You know, I wish I enjoyed, like, just viewed it as a learning experience rather than a make or break it. I think I would have come out, like, I would have really enjoyed my PhD more, or like, you know, I would have been in powerlifting. I wouldn't have had to quit powerlifting to come back to it, right? So I think that's what I would have told past Evita would be, you know, enjoy the learning process. It's a learning process and it's okay. You know, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Wherever you end up is gonna be okay, you know, as long as you're like trying your best, whatever, you know, and that might look different on different days.
That's good. And how does it feel like being international? Because what I've learned is that being American, like because basketball, I play basketball. Basketball was, that's the whole point of this show, is saying, is ball life? Because we have a saying called ball is life. Yeah. And like, it resonates what you just said, because it's like, give yourself a break. Like, and I think about the past and the things I experienced, and when I really reflect on it, it's like, is it is it that big of was it that big of a deal? Did I really, you know what I mean? Did you really have to did I really have to place so much emphasis on that?
Yeah,
right?
you know, like I think one of the things was my first international competition was Worlds Championships, right? You're amongst the strongest people, like some of the strongest athletes in the world, right? Um, especially in powerlifting, obviously. And you know, me coming in, I'm just like, hey, I'm just like small powerlifter from, you know, the small island in the middle of the Mediterranean. You know, I'm like a nobody. And, you know, it was like very daunting, but it was such a good vibe. Like in, like at the back where you're waiting to lift and where you're warming up, I made, you know, very good friends. I spent a lot of time with Team Singapore, such a lovely team. And it was just like, it wasn't as daunting as I thought it would be. Everyone was just happy to be there. Like it was I think it was one of the best like competitions in terms of like friendliness of athletes.
Right.
Yeah, like it was a lovely space to be in. So, you know, you never know, something that might be daunting might actually be like the best thing that's happened to you. Like sometimes you're in your head about it. It's actually not that scary. You just need to show up, you know.
Just need to show up, okay?
Because
it is like you do think sometimes, like, because it is a big deal, you know.
100%.
It's a European championship, like for in your case, you know. But it's just more about that, trying to find that balance where it's like you said, just show up and just do it, you know.
Yeah, show up, do it, and also show up and try and be a friendly face. You know, there's other people that will be having a bad competition day, so show up. And if you see someone having a bad time, or even just like smiling at someone and saying hi, might be like the start of a really lovely friendship or a really lovely journey, you know.
How much do you feel, because we talked about loving yourself, right? But how much do you feel like that involves trusting yourself when it comes to being less, having less anxiety about something? Does that make sense? Like trusting that you're training, that you prepared yourself. You know what I mean?
Trusting the process. I think I think a lot of that is just trusting my coach. I put a lot of trust in my coach, you know, in terms of like the program that he gives me. Like I'm like, cool, you know, he has my best interests at heart. I think more trusting myself is when it comes to my career. Thinking whether like, you know, I do have doubts if like I'm a good scientist or like these kind of things, especially like when I was coming out of my PhD. That is just like, you know, I tell myself, especially on those days where like I feel a lot of anxiety or I feel like I'm not doing my best, it's like, you got this, like I got you got this, I'm here for you, you know. Apart from like the people around me, it's like trying to dig within and being like, it's okay, I got this, you know. Yeah, in terms of powerlifting, I think I put a lot of stuff not on me. I try, like, I obviously I'm accountable. I turn up to training. I try the hardest I can, but it's a lot of trust in my coach. Right. You know, even on competition days, like the numbers that he gives me to achieve, like it's a lot of trust that he knows me, like he knows me as an athlete, right? Like he's a longtime friend. I've known him since 2017, so he knows me. So it's just like a lot of trust that like if he says I should do something and I don't necessarily agree with it, or like I don't understand, you know, it might be asking him to explain why I should do this, why it's beneficial for me. But like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, cool, you have the experience, you know me, you know, you have my best intentions at heart. I'm gonna do it anyway, even if I don't agree with it. It's a lot more like blind trust in him, you know. Well, not blind, because I know his trust. Coaching, right? Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Now we're gonna get to the last question. Let me just check here real quick. We're good. Oh, we're good. It's great timing, actually.
Nice.
I see you were worried about talking too much.
I think I have yapped quite a bit.
No, but, you're good. I mean, whoever's listening is gonna love your story.
Nice.
Okay.
I hope so.
Now, but before I ask this question, is there a saying? Because I don't know if you heard. Have you heard the saying "ball is life"? Is there a saying for powerlifters when it comes to that, or no? Like, I
don't know.
Lift is life.
I'm not sure.
Okay,
I don't know if there is.
That's okay. Well,
so maybe I'll just get hate in the. Please don't hate me.
No, it's fine. Okay. Oh yeah. You probably okay. Well, so I'll just flip. So, obviously, this is our Is Ball Life series. So the question I want to ask you is lifting life?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think life is what makes you happy. So if powerlifting makes you happy, then yeah, it might be life. If something else makes you happy, then that might be life. And you can have multiple things that make you happy. You can be a multifaceted person, and all those parts make you happy, and that will be life. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, so life is life.
Life is what you make it out to be. So do what makes you happy.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Smooth. All right, that's smooth. I got you. So is live life? No. But life is life. Enjoy life. Yeah. I get you on that. I hear you on that one. Smooth.
Yeah.
Now we're at the end. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Are there any like social media platforms or anything anybody can follow you on?
Yeah, you can follow me on my Instagram, which is I guess the main one. It's Dr. Chalupa.
Where does Chalupa stem from?
It's a nickname that my sister gave me. That's a long story. But it's a nickname that my sister gave me, and I've kept it.
Okay. Yeah. Got you. Yeah. Chalupa, like the, what is it? Like a taco? Like a food?
A lot of things.
I know that's nothing. Right, okay. All right. What comes to my mind is a taco. Yeah. That's what comes to my mind. But okay. Okay. So IG, anything else? You have anything like Twitter, LinkedIn?
No, not really. I mean, LinkedIn, Evita Otigbah. But I'm mainly active on Instagram.
Yeah, I see that. So, mainly Instagram. Okay, so follow Dr. Chalupa.
Yeah, Dr.
on
Chalupa
IG.
At IG, you can put the link in the bio, I guess.
Yes, I'll definitely do that.
But and follow SBD Malta because they're sponsoring me.
There you go. Okay, I got
appreciate them.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we go?
I think not share, but I guess take home message.
Okay.
Which is be kind, spread positivity in a world that's cruel, just be kind and don't change your kindness for anything. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Sounds like a great person to me. All right.
I hope so. I'm trying.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate
you. So much for having